Hello. Lying about a diagnosis is definitely wrong, but in the case of Amberlynn Reid, it has happened before. It's a really bad thing to do because it can further stigmatise an illness or disease, thus making it harder for people who genuinely do suffer with it to be taken seriously. It can contribute to the spreading of medical misinformation, and it can also invalidate the real testimonies of people who genuinely do share online about their diagnosis. Amber Reid, as we already know, lies regularly, but is she lying about having BPD?
I was actually diagnosed on my 19th session with my psychologist with borderline personality disorder.
This claim that Amber has BPD is one that I have regularly said I don't believe, and I figure it's time to actually explain to you guys clearly why I don't believe it and show you what evidence I've got and what Amber said on the topic to help us try and work out if it's true or not. I'm not saying here that Amber doesn't have BPD. I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose her with BPD or any other personality disorder, but I do think that there is some good reason to speculate that she might be lying about being formally diagnosed. Some people might think this video is pointless because everything Amber says is usually a lie, so there's no point analysing it, right? But I don't agree with that. I think it's important. If I'm going to tell you that I believe she's lying about her diagnosis, then really I should give you evidence and explain my point. All I can do is analyse her claims, look at the timeline and Amber's history, and assess how likely it is that she has a BPD diagnosis. I know that in almost all of my videos I've been heavily critical of Amber, and I think that it's fairly so, but I'm not going to simply just sit here and bash her and call her a liar in this video. I'm not going to sit here and say she's lying 1000%, but I'm going to show you why I'm suspicious and the things I've seen that make me side-eye the diagnosis. Okay, so Amber's diagnosis claim. Let's have a look at the timeline and how this all came about and see what we can see from literally just the timeline that we've been given. Amber first mentioned a diagnosis of BPD in this video here, published on the 7th of November 2023. A few months prior, from late March 2023 to early August 2023, Amber was pursuing weight loss surgery. She made loads and loads of videos about this. It was kind of like a main content theme on her channel throughout this period. She posted lots of videos about weight loss surgery like these ones here. Part of the requirement for Amber to have this surgery in 2023 during this period was that she had to have 12 compulsory sessions of therapy. And because Amber shares basically everything on her channel, we know exactly when these 12 sessions started and ended to the day, almost. On the 24th of March 2023, near the beginning of her weight loss surgery arc, Amber made this video here called Explaining My Diet, Starting Therapy and Exercise Scares Me vlog, which shows that she is required to do 12 sessions of therapy with a therapist or psychologist, it's not exactly clear which, in order to be approved for weight loss surgery. In this video, we see her discuss the frequency of these sessions as well, which is quite important.
They want me to do 12 sessions with a therapist. I can do 2 sessions a week. I can do 1 session every 2 weeks. So obviously, the quicker I do it, the better. But it's not just up to me, you know. Yeah, I actually officially have a new psychologist and I'm really excited.
This video is where we discover that Amber is going to be having these 12 therapy sessions, okay? 4 days later, on March 28th, 2023, Amber posts this video called Get Ready for Therapy with Me, claiming that she's about to have her first of these 12 therapy sessions on that very day. The video was posted on the 28th of March. It's fair to assume she posted it the day after, or maybe on the day of the therapy session. This video is really helpful for the diagnosis timeline because it's Amber pinning down exactly when these 12 sessions of therapy started. So in this video, first of all, Amber complains that she's going to have to pay for these sessions out of pocket, which is kind of useful for context. It gives us the understanding that these aren't free. Amber's paying for these sessions, right?
Okay, so this is about therapy. I'm supposed to have 12 sessions, like successful therapy sessions, before I can get weight loss surgery. So yeah, sadly, unfortunately, definitely sadly and unfortunately, the psychologist does not accept insurance. So I am sad about that. So I'm having to pay kind of a lot of money per session, but I think it'll be worth it.
So we know that the first of these 12 sessions was roughly around the 28th of March 2023. In this video, Amber goes on to say this.
My appointment's not for another couple hours, and I'm super excited. This is supposed to be like the intake appointment, so I don't know if this counts as the first session, but I would like to assume it does because we're still going to be getting into like the nitty gritty of life. So I would like to assume that this is going to count. But if it doesn't, cool. If it does, cool.
So when we're looking at this timeline, it's possible that this first therapy session did count as one of the 12, but it also might not have counted, and all I can go on is my experience, and in my experience of having a set of therapy sessions, that first session, the kind of like onboarding, get to know you session, does not count. So for the purposes of this timeline, I'm not going to count this first session, but it doesn't really make a massive difference either way. If we do the math from this date for 12 weeks, imagining that the first session didn't count, then that would take us to the week commencing Monday the 19th of June 2023. That would be on or around the 12th and final therapy appointment that Amber would be required to have in order to be approved for weight loss surgery. And lo and behold, on the 27th of June, which is around about the right sort of time, Amber posts this video, Weight Loss Surgery Update, Let's Talk Mukbangs and Feeders Vlog, where she says this.
So I finished my 12 sessions. I was approved by my therapist. I then was approved by my dietitian. And my next step was to meet with a surgeon to talk over everything that I've done and to set a surgery date.
So the math here does track roughly, right? If she did one session a week for 12 sessions starting on March 28th, then it would go to roughly mid-June, which is exactly when Amber makes this video claiming that she's been approved for weight loss surgery and has officially had those compulsory 12 sessions. So all of that tracks time-wise, okay? I'm not here to point out lies where there aren't any or force discrepancies where there aren't any. There's plenty of suspicious stuff that we can look at. So we can give Amber this win, like it's fine, okay? So her timeline here tracks perfectly. Those were the dates of those 12 sessions that she initially had. Just hold that in your mind, that 12th session was on or around June 27th, where she claims she was approved for weight loss surgery. Then, on November 7th, 2023, a few months after Amber had broken up with her girlfriend, decided not to have weight loss surgery, and moved from Kentucky to Oklahoma into the apartment that she lives in now, Amber posted this video here, which is the one where she discloses her BPD, alleged BPD, for the first time. In this video, Amber claims that she was diagnosed with BPD by this therapist/psychologist that she was seeing for her weight loss surgery. In the video, she says this.
Have you found a new therapist? I actually have not. So this is actually a good question to kind of lead into something else. A little bit of a backstory is, as you guys remember, I had to do 12 sessions of therapy to get weight loss surgery because I was trying to do that. And then I did the 12 sessions and then I continued seeing the same therapist, actually psychologist. I liked him a lot, so I stayed. And then remember when I told you guys, okay, well, I have to go to a new psychologist who actually specializes in something different, and I didn't feel comfortable saying what it was. I actually only got to see that psychologist one time because I ended up moving to a completely different state and I wasn't able to keep the same psychologist, obviously. But I guess now is the time to say, I really did not want to share this. I don't know why, but I think it's something that, like, out of the diagnoses I've got my whole life ever since I was 9, which I was 9 and diagnosed with depression for the first time because, like, I was in foster care, and just no 9-year-old should ever be diagnosed with that. But since then, you know, I've been diagnosed with OCD, I've been diagnosed with PTSD, bipolar, and those things were, like, so much easier for me to accept, and I don't really know why. I was actually diagnosed on my 19th session with my psychologist with borderline personality disorder.
This is a really long clip, but it's good to watch it to get all of the context and kind of like break down her claims. So that was Amber's disclosure of her BPD. In the clip, you hear Amber mention that she was diagnosed on her 19th session, which is interesting because as far as we knew, she had only had 12. This is where she claims that she continued seeing this psychologist for a further 7 sessions. In the clip I just showed you, we hear Amber referencing that she's already told us in another video that she got told by her psychologist, the one she was seeing for the weight loss surgery, that she needs to see a specialist. So let's quickly outline what Amber's talking about there. So as we just established, Amber had her 12 sessions on the dates we just mentioned, but if we use those dates and do the math, her 12th session was on or before the 27th of June 2023. If we add an additional 7 weeks, which would make 19 weeks total, which is the number of weeks Amber claims that she was diagnosed in, those 19 weeks with the psychologist up to and including the 19th week where she claims she was diagnosed would have ended on or around roughly August 7th, 2023. That would be 19 weeks from when she told us she was starting the therapy, okay? And again, this tracks perfectly. On August 11th, 2023, Amber made this video, which is called Where I've Been, Cook With Me, I've Got a New Scale. In this video, she says that she's been told by her therapist that she needs to see somebody who specialises in something else. She talks in this video about an appointment that she's made.
So I have an in-person appointment today to see a different psychologist that specializes in something else. It was actually my therapist who referred me, because my therapist doesn't specialize in what I have to go see this psychologist for. So today's the first appointment.
So, again, according to the video Amber made where she discloses her BPD, this tracks basically perfectly. In terms of when she started her therapy to 19 weeks later, the video that she made claiming that she'd been diagnosed with something but she didn't want to tell us what, all of the timings, it fits perfectly. It's pretty much watertight, the timeline. I actually expected when I set out to make this video to find way more holes because Amber's known to lie. I thought there'd be massive discrepancies. There are some, and we're going to get to them, but in terms of this timeline from her disclosure video, there's no discrepancies in that. Especially if we bear in mind we're giving or taking a week's allowance for whether that first session counted as one of the 12 or not, because we just don't know. The weeks all pretty much track, and in this video from November 2023, where she first mentions the diagnosis and tells us that it was 19 weeks into her therapy, it tracks in perfect alignment with the videos that she posted at the time, including the one where she mentions that she needs to see a specialist. This is fine though. The reason I don't believe that Amber was genuinely diagnosed is not down to timing, and we're going to get into that, but I just want to be fair and balanced that according to Amber's own alleged timeline, as I've said, ad nauseum. Every time I say that, I'm like, oh my god. But I've said it multiple times because it's true. Up to the point of this disclosure video and the timeline given in this disclosure video line up with what Amber put on her own channel back when she was having the therapy. There are still some seriously weird and suspicious things which make me still not believe her, despite this timeline lining up perfectly. So we'll get into those now. A long time after this all happened and Amber disclosed her alleged BPD, on April 10th, 2025, Amber posted this video here called My Whole Relationship Was a Lie and I Regret Ever Being in It, in between her claiming the diagnosis in November of 23 up to and including, well, even to this day. Amber had mentioned BPD many times on her channel. Throughout 2024, she talks about BPD loads and loads, including using it as an excuse for her shit behaviour. Anyway, in this video I've just shown, this one here, this is where the timeline and everything about it starts to get really confusing, and not just to me. In this video, Amber is told by a commenter that it takes years to be diagnosed with BPD. Amber says this in response.
So that's not true. It could take a couple weeks to a couple months. For me, it took 8 months where I had a weekly appointment with my psychologist.
So we just heard Amber say that she was diagnosed in 8 months with a weekly appointment, but we just did the math on this, and March 28th, which is roughly when her appointment started, to August 11th, which is the video she made where she's claiming that she needs to speak to a specialist about a different diagnosis, which we later found out was allegedly BPD. This is more like 5 months. So why does Amber say 8 months in this video? Is it because she's trying to make her diagnosis seem more believable? Could it be that it's been a year and a half and she's just forgotten? It's a discrepancy. A relatively big one. 5 months is quite different to 8 months. It could be that she just remembered wrong or misspoke. I think it's far more likely that Amber forgot how much detail she gave in the past, so she didn't realise that she was dobbing herself in effectively. I could be wrong, I just don't know. However, this is not the only time that Amber has fucked up her own diagnosis timeline. There is actually also another pretty big fuck up in Amber's story. In her Breaking My Silence livestream at minute 20 roughly-ish, Amber is asked about her BPD diagnosis. And in this live stream, Amber says that she was diagnosed with BPD in March of 2023.
Who diagnosed you with BPD and when? So it was actually when I was seeing the psychologist. It was around the era of when I was like getting my weight loss surgery. I was with Feline at the time. So it was 2023. It was, I would say maybe March of 2023, like around that area. And that was when they were like, okay, so you meet the criteria because there's like 9 criterions, whatever. And they were like, but you need to see someone who like specifically can help you with this, because my psychologist at the time did not. And I never saw anyone. until now.
But we know, based on everything we've just covered, that Amber didn't even have her first therapy session until the 28th of March 2023, so she can't have been anywhere near diagnosed in March. At this point, she's claimed to be diagnosed with BPD in August and in March of 2023. Now I know, again, this could just be a fuck up. I'm not sitting here like saying you said this so you're absolutely a liar. I'm just pointing out the facts of what's been said. Also, on her channel in this video here, I was a controlling girlfriend, maybe I'm the problem. This was uploaded on April 3rd of 2025. Amber says again that it took 8 or 9 months for her to be diagnosed with BPD, which once again, according to her own words on her own channel, we know is not true.
Amberlynn has not been diagnosed with BPD because she said in her live stream that the psychologist told her she needs to see a specialist. So I was seeing a psychologist for about 9 months. And it was around the 8-month mark where I was finally diagnosed with BPD. So when I expressed that that psychologist said I'd need to see a specialist, it is because they wanted me to heal from BPD, and they did not work with BPD patients in that way. Yes, I was absolutely diagnosed. It's just the psychologist who diagnosed me didn't specialize in BPD. When you are diagnosed with BPD, you do not have to be diagnosed by a person who specializes in it, but to heal from it and to do therapy for it, it is better to see someone who specializes for it. So that is what I meant.
This, once again, creates more timeline confusion. Why is she trying to make it seem like she was diagnosed in more time than she claims herself to have been diagnosed in? Hey guys, Editing Rachel here once again, as ever. I've just noticed as I'm editing this video that there's actually a much bigger problem with the clip that I just showed that I didn't seem to kind of notice when I was scripting the video. Amber is claiming in this clip that she saw the psychologist that diagnosed her for 9 months, but in the 8th month she was diagnosed. This suggests that she continued seeing this psychologist for another month, but we know that's not the case, based on the accurate timeline that Amber gave us when she told us that she had BPD. In this video here, where she says it was 19 weeks, and we've checked out the timeline, and it was exactly 19 weeks. From her starting the therapy to her saying that she got the diagnosis, it was only 5 months, it was nowhere near 9 months. Also, Amber heavily implies that she stopped seeing the psychologist that diagnosed her so that she could see this new psychologist, who she admits she only saw the one time because she moved and couldn't have any more therapy. I was trying really hard to be unbiased and balanced and calm in this video, but it's really clear here that Amber is just straight up lying about her BPD diagnosis. Being diagnosed in a weekly session in 19 weeks only equals 4.25 months. We're nowhere near the 9-month mark. We're only just over halfway to the 9-month mark. It's so painfully obvious that Amber is lying about this diagnosis. She can't even stay accurate to her own previous statements. It's a red flag, it's a discrepancy. I don't know how much to read into it, but it's one of the factors, so there you go. I thought I'd tell you. I'm going to talk a little bit more now about, to put it bluntly, why I don't believe that Amber's been diagnosed. And even though her timeline, at least before she messed it up with these videos I've just mentioned in 2025, was relatively neat, I still don't believe her. It's my theory that probably what happened was, during her compulsory sessions with this therapist, I think that this therapist probably suggested that maybe she might have BPD and that maybe she would benefit from seeing a specialist to be formally diagnosed, but instead of actually seeing this specialist, Amber just heard the letters BPD, googled them and was like, oh yeah, that sounds like me, and claimed the diagnosis without an actual formal diagnosis. That's just a theory, but it's one that I think is quite plausible. Amber also claims that she was referred to a specialist for BPD after her therapist, the one she was seeing for weight loss surgery, allegedly diagnosed her, but that she only saw this therapist once because she moved. But in her Breaking My Silence live stream, Amber says that she never saw anyone until now, which is a little bit weird because there's a video of her claiming to be scheduling an in-person appointment with this BPD specialist. So did she schedule that appointment or not? Maybe she scheduled it but she just didn't go. I don't know. Again, you know, it's not a smoking gun, but it's another red flag to note. Another reason that I'm a bit suspicious of Amber, to be honest with you, is because during this period of therapy, these compulsory 12 weeks, Amber was allegedly also diagnosed by the same therapist with PTSD. Now, I don't know if anybody has covered this. I feel like I haven't noticed it before, but it might be that this is everyone knows and I'm late, I'm not sure. But Amber claims that this same therapist diagnosed her with both PTSD and and BPD. I'll prove this to you now. So on April 27th, 2023, 4 weeks into her 12 therapy sessions, Amber posted this video called Diagnosed with PTSD, Come to Target with Me and Contacting Strawberry Hill. In this video, Amber claims that the same therapist diagnosed her with PTSD. As I've said, watch this.
Obviously, I'm dreading therapy. I always dread therapy. I already know exactly how it's going to go down, but I feel like today's appointment's going to be like really good because I feel like in a really good headspace today. So I'll see you in an hour. Bye. I just got out of the appointment and wow. Okay. So this is my 4th one. So I've had over 4 hours with him and he wanted me to fill out this like thing and I had no idea what it was and he wasn't telling me what it was. So I filled it out. Afterwards, we went over my answers, talked about them more, and it was actually to see if I have PTSD. And I was not expecting to be doing that today. Like when you do it and you get the score, you have PTSD if it's like in between like 31 to 33, and mine was 47. I have always felt in my heart that I showed signs of PTSD, and just to hear it, from a psychologist and to know and to have the answer, like he said, to have the answer now, we know what to do moving forward. He said we're going to be doing a lot of cognitive processing and that it's going to be really hard. And we talked a lot about trauma. Today was a lot about trauma and PTSD and some of the things I went through.
So there Amber is, claiming that 4 weeks into therapy, her therapist formally diagnosed her with PTSD. This video was posted on April 27th, 2023, and then, allegedly, just a few sessions later, the same person also diagnoses Amber with BPD. I don't want to make this video too long. I'm not a medical professional. I've never diagnosed anyone with anything apart from being a wanker. I've got lots more to cover, so I don't want to dig into the ins and outs of who can be diagnosed with what and when and how many diagnoses you can have at once. I've googled, you can absolutely have BPD and PTSD at the same time. You can see that from just a quick Google search. But it does just seem a little bit strange and fishy to me, and I could be completely out on a limb here, but it does feel a bit weird to me that this person would allegedly diagnose Amber with both PTSD and BPD when all they were supposed to be doing was helping her see if she was fit for weight loss surgery. I'm curious if any of you are therapists or have any experience with this kind of thing. Could it be that a therapist would diagnose you with PTSD and then 8 weeks later, which is exactly how long it was, diagnose you again with BPD? Is it possible? I mean, I know it's possible. Is it likely? Let me know what you think. This then brings me to my next point of suspicion, which is that this therapist is somebody who Amber was only supposed to be seeing as a kind of tick box exercise so that she could get weight loss surgery. I don't know how likely it is that a therapist who was only supposed to be seeing you for 12 perfunctory sessions so that they could approve you for weight loss surgery, they're basically just assessing if you're in a fit state to have this surgery, right? I just don't know how likely it is that that therapist would diagnose somebody with 2 serious mental health conditions when all they're supposed to be doing is checking if you're okay for weight loss surgery. Now, this could be completely wrong. Whenever I've had these kind of compulsory sets of therapy sessions, they've always been kind of, I don't know, a little bit on the surface, and you get the feeling, at least I've had the feeling, that I'm going through the motions. The person is taking me through their program so that they can approve me, not for surgery, but so that they can effectively tell HR that they've given me the therapy, right? I just don't know how likely it is that somebody who was doing this kind of thing for Amber would diagnose her with both of these things, but I don't know. Also, both PTSD and BPD, as far as I understand, particularly BPD, can be quite complex to diagnose, and generally speaking, therapists don't just dive in with the first diagnosis that they can think of. I'll leave that one there and see what you guys think. Now, when it comes to this PTSD diagnosis, there's other kind of suspicious things there. When Amber discusses the result that she got on the test she took with the therapist to see if she has PTSD or not, she says that a score between 31 and 33 would indicate PTSD, and Amber scored 47. I don't know much about this scoring system, and I'm hoping that one of you guys will know. Often with diagnostic tools like like this. When somebody scores too high, it actually indicates malingering rather than a true diagnosis. It's not like the higher and higher you score, the more likely you are to have PTSD. It's more like after a certain point, nobody has PTSD in that way, so it's more likely that you're malingering or feigning or trying to get a positive result on the test. Now, when I thought about this PTSD diagnosis and her score on this test, it reminded me of when Amber was talking about BPD in this video here. This was posted 3 months ago, and in this video, Amber talks through the symptoms of BPD that there are, and she claims to have all 9 of these, which in fact is very, very unlikely. And this just reminded me of this really high score on the PTSD test, and it made me wonder, does this suggest malingering as well? Is it the same kind of thing, where she really wants it to seem like she has the diagnosis? When talking about the symptoms of BPD, Amber says this.
As you guys know, I suffer with all 9 out of the 9 listed in the criteria, which is very unfortunate and it's hard to handle.
A YouTube channel called Therapy Today, which is run by a licensed therapist, made a video which you might have seen. It's this one here. It's called Does Amberlynn Reid Have Borderline Personality Disorder? Therapist Reacts. The guy in this video is a qualified therapist, so he obviously has to be careful what he says. He can't just accuse people of lying. I actually don't think that he answers his thesis question in the video. So the question is, does Amberlynn have borderline personality disorder? I don't think he actually answers yes or no if he thinks that she does. But one thing that does happen in this video, which I think is super interesting, is the face he makes in response to Amber when she's reading out the symptoms of BPD and she claims to have all 9. Watch this clip here and look at his face, right? Just his facial expression and his reaction.
Number 8 is inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. For example, frequent displays of temper, constant anger, recurrent physical fights. So the last one, which is number 9, transient stress-related paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms. And out of the 9, I have all 9, but there is one.
Now, when this therapist starts talking after he makes this face, he goes off on a slightly different point. So he kind of moves away from the 9 criteria and talks about something else. So I've awkwardly paused here rather than include what he says, just because it doesn't help me to make my point and it's slightly off topic from what I'm saying. But I'll link his video downstairs and you can go and watch that if you want. But you can see from his facial expression, he's surprised to hear her say that she has all 9. This also reminded me of something else that I had seen a few months ago when I was making my video about Trisha Paytas, this video here. It reminded me of this YouTube channel called Dissociated, which is a channel run by somebody, or they haven't posted in a while. This person claimed to have DID, which is Dissociative Personality Disorder. I find it really hard to pronounce that word. I don't know if it's dissociative or dissociative, but anyway, that personality disorder. There's a good amount of speculation that this person is lying about having DID. There are lots of really good, useful videos about this situation. You can go and watch them. I'm sure you can find them. I watched this one here, which was quite interesting. And I know there's a massive difference between Amber and the person who runs this channel, because this channel is entirely about DID and Amber's channel is not entirely about BPD. So I know that this is not a perfect analogy and I just want to acknowledge that. But what is interesting is that in the content that Dissociated made, they share what they scored on the dissociative experiences scale, and their score is way higher than what most people who have DID score. Their score shows that there's a very good chance that they're lying or malingering. And this just made me think of Amber and her high scoring and claiming all of the symptoms of BPD. It just made me think of her. Also, the other thing that I found a bit strange is that this therapist, which Amber was seeing, allegedly was comfortable to diagnose her with PTSD and BPD, but as soon as they allegedly diagnose Amber with BPD, they then immediately suggest that she goes to see a specialist. Now, it's just interesting to me, are they a PTSD specialist if they diagnosed Amber with PTSD, but then carried on seeing her for another 15 weeks? That just seems weird, right? Why would they diagnose Amber with PTSD, be happy to keep on treating her for 15 weeks, but then when they diagnose her allegedly with BPD, all of a sudden they're not happy to treat her anymore? Amber claims that the reason for this is because they're not a BPD specialist, but are they a PTSD specialist? Just a bit weird. Also, I don't know how likely it is that somebody would be comfortable to diagnose BPD and then not treat BPD, but that might be completely like out of left field, right? Because you can be diagnosed by somebody who doesn't know how to treat it, but they can tell you you've got it? I don't know. Another interesting point, and what I wonder, did Amber hear the therapist say, maybe you have BPD, and as soon as she heard those words, she ran with it and claimed the diagnosis? It wouldn't be the first time a lolcow has done this. Boogie2988 did exactly the same thing. He heard the word cancer come out of his doctor's mouth, and he then claimed that he actually had it, when in fact he didn't. It's also kind of weird how when Amber talks about having BPD in this first video, one of the things that she says is it's just obvious that she has it.
And for some reason, I had a hard time accepting that, and still have a hard time accepting that, because it's obvious. It's obvious that I have borderline personality disorder, and it's something that like I always purposely pushed away. Like, people would contact me and be like, you know, you seem like you have BPD, and I just automatically would shut them down and be like, nope.
But for me, this begs the question, well, why is it obvious? It kind of sounds like Amber wants to have this diagnosis in a way. I know she's saying in this video that she wanted to push the diagnosis away and didn't want to accept it, but to then say that it's obvious she has it is a little bit weird to me. Now, we know that Amber collects diagnoses like Pokemon or perfumes. She has a long history of claiming all kinds of different diagnoses on the internet.
I have been diagnosed with OCPD. I have been diagnosed with eating in the past. I was diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed being bipolar, uterine cancer, hypothyroidism, sludge in my gallstones, OCD, a swollen spine, hip bursitis, slip disc. I was diagnosed with acid reflux. I was diagnosed with panic disorder, lymphedema, depression.
Also, as I'm making this video, I found a huge discrepancy in Amber's diagnosis claims, particularly about OCD. You've just seen the compilation that I just showed of Amber claiming all of these different diagnoses. As I was gathering those clips, I found her outright lying about having OCD. Look at this video here from 8 years ago called Not Something I Want to Talk About. In this clip, she talks about having OCD.
When I was younger, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder.
But then years later, in this video here, she admits to lying about having OCD.
No, never been diagnosed with OCD because I've never been tested. But I have been diagnosed with OCPD because I have been tested.
So that's pretty insane, and it just adds more certainty in my mind, or more, at least more suspicion in my mind, that she really could be lying about having BPD. In the video where she claims to have OCD, she goes into a huge list of alleged symptoms, including that she used to use sign language to sign everything that other people said around her, which is just crazy. But anyway, back to my point. Amber likes being diagnosed with things. It's just really hard to believe anything she says. If you want to look more into Amber's OCD lies and how those affected Amber's girlfriend at the time, Crystal, who actually did suffer with OCD, then I recommend watching Mr. Snowflake's Victims of an Empath video about Crystal. I'll link it downstairs. It's this one here. It's called Victims of an Empath, and Amberlynn Reid series, episode 2, Crystal. It wouldn't be the first time that Amber's stolen somebody else's story. Amber stole her ex Casey's coming out story. It's something that she has done. There is a precedent for Amber behaving like this. I'm not just pulling this out of my arse. Another reason I'm very suspicious, and I know this video is kind of just coming off as like a list of things, but I don't know, I feel like I want to say them, I have them in a list, so I haven't gone in for the fancy structure in this video too much. Amber has shown proof many times on her channel of all kinds of stuff. She'll prove that she can walk in a grocery store and doesn't use scooters. She'll prove, like, that's only one example, granted, but there's loads and loads of instances where Amber has shown videos, clips, screenshots, even reading to us from her diary to try and prove that something is true. A great example of Amber doing this is when she had cancer, and she was accused of lying about this, and she made a video called Here's Your Proof. It's pretty infamous, you've probably seen it. In this video, Amber shows a screenshot which includes her own very sensitive medical evidence, and also shows her mum's cancer diagnosis as well, but that's another whole thing.
If you want your proof, here's your proof. Here's an actual medical record.
I don't want to bore you by showing you too many instances, so I'm not going to play you loads and loads, but there are loads where Amber is accused of lying and then shows proof to debunk the fact that she's not lying, sometimes with more success than other times. The point is that one of the central pillars of Girl World, and Amber proves this rule, is that if the girls can prove something, they will. Throughout 2024, Amber mentioned her BPD more and more until about 3-ish months ago, when Amber bought this BPD workbook, which she claimed was recommended to her by a professional. It's it's not clear which one. She says it was her EMDR therapist, but it's also not clear when she started having EMDR therapy, so I don't know. But in a video from March of this year, this one here, Amber shows us this workbook stating that it was recommended to her by a therapist.
But I do want to talk about my experience with BPD because it is a huge part of my life and I suffer every single freaking day. So by a therapist, I was actually suggested these books, which is really weird to me because this has been highly suggested from quite a few of you who have BPD. So this has been in my wish list on Amazon for I can't even tell you how long. It is the Borderline Personality Disorder Workbook by Daniel J. Fox. So it's an integrative program to understand and manage your BPD. It's a step-by-step guidance to help you balance emotions, improve relationships, challenge negative thoughts and beliefs, grow beyond your BPD, and reclaim your life.
But I'm pretty suspicious that this workbook was ever recommended to her by a therapist, because in this live stream here, hi again, from January 25, somebody mentions the workbook and Amber says, thanks for the recommendation, rather than saying, oh yeah, my therapist already recommended this to me. So slightly weird, but not sure.
BPD Workbook by Daniel J. Fox can really help you. Thank you for letting me know that.
Either way, the point is, she was using this book in her videos. She was almost trying to rebrand parts of her vlog to have like a BPD section where she would discuss BPD and share her experiences and show herself filling in this workbook.
I want to talk more. It's our little BPD segment of my vlogs. So on top of doing EMDR therapy for it, I also am doing workbooks that was recommended to me. And in my last vlog, I talked about the 9 criterias that are part of the BPD diagnosis and how you have to meet at least 5 of them. So within the 9, each one has its own like clusters and multitudes of symptoms and traits and characteristics. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to give you guys an example / symptom or a thing that I deal with within each one of those things, because as you guys know, I suffer with all 9 out of the 9 listed in the criteria, which is very unfortunate and it's hard to handle.
So you can see here that Amber was not only trying to make BPD a thing on her channel, we can tell she was doing this because she says the words little BPD segment on her channel, so you can tell she's intending to kind of rebrand and mention it more often. But pretty much immediately after doing this, Amber quickly received loads of backlash where she was accused of lying about BPD. Now, the standard lolcow procedure when you're accused of lying about something is to get on live and show proof, but Amber didn't. Instead of proving that it was true that she really did have BPD, she never showed proof, and instead she stopped talking about it so much on her channel, or at least she stopped the BPD section and just kind of kept it moving. This was really suspicious to me. If she had proof, she would have shown it, like she has done with every other accusation of lying that she's ever faced on the internet. When she was accused of lying about Beck, she came onto her live stream and showed some shitty diary entry proof.
So I was like writing things about fleeing and I was like, this is awkward. Why would I let Becky read this? So here's the actual page. Like a lot of people like are like, Amberlynn, if you're going to come on here, we need some sort of proof. So I'm trying to give you, like, obviously I can't show proof of everything under the sun. Like, that's not possible. But the things that I can give proof, like, I'm trying.
In this clip, quite fascinatingly, in my opinion, we hear Amber say that if she can show proof, she will. Funny, huh? So if she could show proof of her BPD diagnosis, according to her own words, she would. In this video here, called I Shouldn't Admit This, Zachary Michael and Deleting Comments, Amber tries to explain why she won't show evidence of her BPD diagnosis.
People were like, Amberlynn, that's not true. You were not rushed to the ER gushing blood. And I was like, yes, I was. Here's proof. And then me posting medical paperwork was because people were like, Amberlynn, you were never diagnosed. That's not true. And then I was like, well, here's proof. So both of those instances was just me not being able to regulate my emotions, me not being able to like ignore the shit. So instead it made my like impulse instinct, like it was gone. I had 0 impulse skills. Like I was just like, I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this. I couldn't regulate myself. But thankfully since then, I have gotten better with that. Am I perfect? No. I think that's a reason why I have stopped like demeaning myself in certain areas. People are like, let me see the BPD diagnosis. People are like, let me see proof that you have a kidney that's 6 millimeters big. And I'm like, no, like I have boundaries. And I respect my boundaries. In the past, no, because I was bad at regulating, still am, but better. And that's just like another way of like showing that I have improved as a person, because in the past, like crying hysterically while showing my medical records is crazy work.
That night, literally the same night in the same outfit, Amber goes live and gets all ragey and shows even more medical proof of her cancer diagnosis because she was being reaccused of lying because of the Beck and Destiny live. Amber in fact deleted this live, but I saved a clip from it.
I couldn't even believe how many people were like, oh, you lied about having cancer, I fucking knew it. I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, genuinely, what happened? So, I'm going to show more medical proof. That's fun.
So there she is, that night, proving that even though she said earlier that day that she's not going to show medical evidence anymore because she's really emotionally developed or whatever, no, that night, despite having said she wouldn't do it earlier that day, she still gets on live to show this medical evidence. When she does have proof, like she said in her own words, she will show it. So where's the BPD proof? Why is it that she'll show proof for her cancer and every other thing, but she won't show it for BPD? I think it's because she doesn't have any proof because she's not diagnosed. Some people might say to me, well, why do you care? Just leave it out. You know, who cares? Everyone knows Amber lies. Like, why are you even bothered if she's got BPD or not, right? And here's why I care in a nutshell. Claiming that you are diagnosed with something which you are not diagnosed with is a lie, which is fucked up. But also, when you have Amber's reputation, you're a lolcow, you're a nasty person on the internet, and then you claim a diagnosis like BPD, and also go on to use it as an excuse, it really further stigmatizes the condition for people who actually do suffer with it. It's actually kind of ironic because in the video where Amber claims that she has OCD, even though she was lying, she actually mentions this or something similar to this and says something about how OCD isn't something to joke about.
A lot of people joke about having OCD or being OCD with certain things, but it's not really something to joke about when someone really has it.
But the thing is, it isn't something to lie about either, and neither is BPD. Also, claiming that you have BPD when you don't could affect people who truly do have it and who run channels that are trying to advocate for BPD or other diagnosis. If you lie about having a condition and then you're exposed, you can bring into disrepute the validity of other content creators. For example, there's this woman on TikTok or person on TikTok called Ticks and Roses who lied about having Tourette's. There's a big video about it. I'll put the one I watched on the screen here. Can't remember what it was right now. But in this video, there's a section where the person talking explains how once Ticks and Roses was exposed for lying about having Tourette's, every other content creator on TikTok who made videos about Tourette's had their comment sections absolutely flooded with accusations that they also were lying when they weren't. Also, if you don't have a certain diagnosis but you claim to, anything that you say about that diagnosis will be things that you found out on the internet, which might not be true, which spreads misinformation, which isn't good, but also you could kind of hurt yourself and inhibit your own growth and development, because if you don't have the diagnosis that you're claiming, you're probably not seeking a true diagnosis of what you really might have. Say, for example, if Amber doesn't have BPD, but she actually has NPD, but she never gets diagnosed with NPD because she's constantly going on about how she has BPD when she doesn't, then this could inhibit her own development. Granted, it's not a very good example, but it's, you know, something to think about. Also, and finally, another reason why it's fucked to do this is because the viewers who also have this diagnosis, who watch your content to relate to somebody who has the same thing as them, actually aren't relating to somebody who has the same thing as them because you're fucking lying and you don't have it. So I asked myself the question, why would Amber lie about having BPD when she doesn't? I looked into the kind of views that Amber gets on her diagnosis videos, and to be honest, it's not like they get way more than any of her other videos. So I don't think she's doing it necessarily for views, but I do think it's kind of a branding thing and a content driver, you know? She's not got a lot going on in her life. Having diagnoses or things that are wrong with her is part of her brand. Also, interestingly, when Amber first mentions this diagnosis of BPD for the first time, we hear her her say that she doesn't want to share it, and yet somehow she still does share it. And that's not to be ignored. There's a reason why she claims to have these things. When she makes the video in November, it's been, what, 2 months roughly since she claims that she was diagnosed. So why show it now? Why share it then? It seems really weird to me, and I think it's just a content piece to her. It's just something to make a video about. But I do think that the main reason that Amber's claimed BPD when potentially she might not have it is mainly because she can just use it as an excuse for shitty behaviour. The evidence of Amber using BPD as an excuse for crappy behaviour is absolutely huge. I'm not going to put loads of it in this video because the video is already pretty long. There are just a few moments that I am going to show. For example, in this video here, Amber's talking about how she makes her exes the centre of her life, and she says this:
I have a bad habit of making my partners my whole life, especially like, I mean, even in like talking stages, I tend to do that as well. And I want to blame it on my BPD, because as you guys know, I was diagnosed borderline personality disorder. Like, I want to blame it on that.
Another time this was really evident is when Amber claimed that BPD gave her memory issues.
My memory is so bad, and it's always been horrendous. So as you guys know, I suffer with BPD, and for the longest, I didn't know why, like, my memory was so bad. I always thought it was, like, due to childhood trauma. I've talked about it before. I've literally told you guys that, like, my memory is like Swiss cheese. The cheese is the memories. The holes is, like, the missing memories, because I'm telling you, my memory is just bad, like, about everything. Having BPD actually causes really bad memory issues. So it's like when I was diagnosed, it's like, oh, that makes sense then. My memory is bad when it comes to, like, super traumatic things or, like, serious things. Like, I'll randomly remember something that happened in my childhood and I'll be like, oh my God, how did I block that out for so long? Like, genuinely, how did I not remember that? Or it's things like something that I did a week ago that I don't even remember doing or saying.
All I have to say to that is that if you're a controversial, problematic public figure who is consistently held to their own words and accused of lying, it would be really, really, really convenient if you got diagnosed with something which affects memory, wouldn't it? And the thing is, this kept happening. Throughout much of 2024, Amber shows again and again and again that using her BPD diagnosis as an excuse is something that she's very comfortable doing.
You use BPD as an excuse. I have it. You give us, I don't know what the rest of that is, but thanks for super chat. See, the thing with borderline personality disorder, it is a personality disorder. Like, your personality is like a lot of what you are and who you are on an everyday basis, you know, because it's a personality disorder. So, you know, it's hard for me to ever give a reason for something, you know, when BPD is the fuel to the way I react to some things or whatever it may be. Like, it's hard for me to be like, that's not the reason, when, you know, when it is.
It's once again just another thing that she can use to deflect and avoid taking any accountability. I think Amber also wants to be seen as quirky, which is one of the reasons that she collects these diagnoses. I think she likes the attention it brings, she likes how it makes her special, makes her a victim. So, to round this off, I think Amber might have BPD, possibly, I just don't know, but I don't think that she's been diagnosed formally. I think that if Amber's watching this video and she has proof, she should show it, but it's her call, obviously. At this point, she's shown proof of so many other things that I really think it's suspicious that she hasn't proven this. I'm also curious, would you get like paper proof of a diagnosis like this? In the UK, you would. I don't know if you do in the States, right? Would they print you like a letter to say you have BPD? Dunno. I feel like you'd get something, but I'm curious if you guys could share your experiences. That would be really cool. So I end this video with this kind of sentiment. Amber, if you have BPD and you feel comfortable sharing your evidence, I really think that you should. If you're going to continue to claim a diagnosis that affects thousands of people, including lots of your own viewers, then I think you need to be responsible in the way that you talk about it and the way you handle it. And I can't sit here and demand that Amber shows proof for it, but I think it would be a good idea for her to show the proof if she has it, especially if she plans to carry on talking about BPD, like, ever again. When so many red flags are shining, and Amber has a history of lying about diagnoses, and there are lots of discrepancies and confusions and contradictions in the whole diagnosis timeline overall, not just that first bit, it's probably fair for me and Amber's audience to want her to show proof, but of course at the end of the day, that's really her choice. If Amber does show proof, I will of course admit, delete this video, admit that I'm wrong and apologise, but I heavily suspect that that probably won't happen and this video will stay here. People love claiming that Amber's changed and that her shitty behaviour is in the past, and I always disagree with this. I think that her shitty behaviour is very much in the present, and claiming a diagnosis that she appears not to have is a pretty classic example of shitty behaviour from Amber, the exact shitty behaviour that we've all come to know and expect from Amberlynn Reid. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Amber? Do you think she has BPD? If she does, why hasn't she shown proof when she has for every other thing? Another great example of that I've just thought of is when she claimed that she wasn't diabetic and showed a video of her opening her health portal. Clearly, she's more than happy to show medical evidence when it suits her. I think it's possible that we need to push Amber a little bit to make it clear that if she's gonna claim BPD with her history of lying, particularly about mental health issues, I think she does need to show evidence if she's planning to continue branding herself and using BPD as an excuse. Very curious to hear what you guys think on this one. I look forward to reading all of your comments, and until next time, thank you for watching and I'll see you later.